on Saturday night and the mistakes that obviously led to it on the behalf of the people he pays rather a lot of money?
Well, obviously, Kelly McInerney is lying, and the Fox and Friends people know she's lying, which is the most remarkable part about that. But look, the truth was painted on Donald Trump's face when he landed on the south lawn of the White House aboard Marine One and dejectedly walked across the south lawn a defeated man. And Donald Trump, we all know this about him, is in essence a junkie. He needs the acclaim. He needs the exaltation. He hadn't had a rally in months. We've seen the most incompetent and inept performance in a crisis by an American leader in the history of the country. The economy is shattered, 40 million people out of work, 120,000 dead Americans. And so Donald Trump was there. He was going to light the fuse. He was going to kickstart the campaign. And it was a debacle for the ages. The president of the United States got up there and he talked for 15 minutes.
He's an
about
ass.
his slow shuffle down the ramp at West Point. He talked about the difficulty of drinking water. The people who were there risking their lives cheered for it. I'm not sure why. But incredibly, he finally told the truth about something in the middle of the speech when he confessed to slowing down testing for coronavirus. And the reason the United States is the epicenter of coronavirus death and suffering, and our economy is the worst because of it, and the United States is the worst managed country with regard to dealing with it, is because we don't have enough testing. So it was a remarkable admission, and an admission that is responsible for the deaths of many, many Americans. So you just saw an unhinged performance. I think at the 4-year mark, the American people are taking Donald Trump's final measure, and they're repudiating him. They're rejecting him. No one in the country, except for the Trump kids, can say they're better off than they were 4 years ago. The American people are looking at Joe Biden. They see a good man, a decent man, an empathetic man, a competent man, and an honorable man. And they're getting ready to replace Donald Trump with that man.
Maria Teresa, here's my thought about this. When I watched this event on Saturday night, I've been thinking a lot about, well, let's put this up. There's this New York Times story last week. It raised the question of whether Trump really wants a second term or not. This one here, does Trump want to fight for a second term? His self-sabotage worries AIDS is the headline. And I had read that story and was struck by it because there's a lot of senior people around Trump who are looking at his, not just his self-sabotage, but his self-pity. And when you saw him on Saturday night, there's been if you talk to people close to Trump over the years, their main confidence in this Biden race, and we'll talk about the polls in a second, but their main confidence is Donald Trump's a better political athlete than Joe Biden. That's what they think. No matter what happens to the economy, race relations, anything else in America, the coronavirus, Trump is a better political athlete. And what I saw on stage on Saturday night was not a political athlete at all. I saw Donald Trump as like a political fat Elvis, who was doing his lazy, unfocused, undisciplined, a lot of shtick, no message, as I said in the lead-in here. When you look at him, and you know a lot about politics and have seen a lot of candidates in your time, is this a candidate who strikes fear in your heart, given the kind of incredibly flaccid performance that he gave in Tulsa?
This is the thing, John, is that everybody's blaming Pascal and folks on the advance team for the fact that the place was empty. Yes, it was empty, but the candidate himself did not do his job. He was bringing out all these racial tropes. He basically he dusted off the 2016 Make America Great 2.0 agenda, but it was the same thing. It was anti-immigrant, it was law and order, and it was trade. It was so 2016. Most presidential candidates, incumbents say, you know what, this is an opportunity for me to tell you what I'm going to give you in the future. Given that we are in a perfect storm of race relations, we're teetering on an economic recession because of his incompetency in malpractice in handling COVID, he has an opportunity to say, this is how we're going to get out of the debacle that we're in. He did none of that. Instead, he framed his campaign in a worldview of us versus them, and Joe Biden of a multiracial, multi-American country that actually represents the majority of voters. He also, though, did provide us with a big air balloon of what is he really afraid of? What is he afraid of that's going to stick to him that Joe Biden may actually use as a platform? He talked about kids in cages. Why? Because we know that the majority of white suburban moms did not like that. It was because of kids in cages and healthcare that they came back to the Democratic Party during the midterm elections. He talked about the virus, making it incredibly derogatory, going back to his Chinese tropes. But again, it's because he knows that that's something can stick. And finally, he kept telling the American people during that rally, trust me, because unemployment is fine, it's not okay, but it's going to be fine by the time November comes. And then he talked about the stock market, how it was booming, and how it meant this representation that he is doing fine. But let's be honest with each other. Let's level, John. We know that the majority of American people do not have stocks in the stock market. He is completely divorced from the American reality right now, and it showed. And this is an opportunity for Joe Biden to figure out if the president depends so much on rallies. What is Joe Biden's opportunity? What can he talk about? Is it roundtable discussions about this big issues that America is facing to reset ourselves for the 21st century, where he brings in diverse groups of communities, business, law enforcement, and to talk about what is that American future looks like the day after Donald Trump is no longer in office and he's sworn into office. If anything, the more the president talks, the more he lays the groundwork for Joe Biden to figure out what is that signature look that he's looking for at the same time.
So, Lemire, last week we had national polls from Fox News, Quinnipiac, and CNBC. Fox News had Biden ahead by 12, Quinnipiac had Biden ahead by 8, CNBC had Biden ahead by 10. Those are not great numbers for an incumbent. And so now we have Trump this morning. Let's look at these two tweets here. Given how dark this picture is for him, the polling looks bad. Joe Biden outraised him in the month of May. He now tries to do this reboot of the campaign in Tulsa, which falls flat. And so where are we at? This morning, we have Trump tweeting, because of mail-in ballots, 2020 will be the most rigged election in our nation's history. Unless this stupidity is ended, we voted during World War I and World War II with no problem, but now they are using COVID in order to cheat by using mail-ins. That's Trump's, the manifestation, after all the things I just laid out about how badly things are going, and after this weekend, the first thing he's tweeting is about the rigged election. So now we have Bill Kristol with the other tweet. I'm going to ask you to react to this. Kristol this morning says, you look at the polls and think he can't win, meaning Trump. But Trump's path to victory doesn't depend on persuading Americans. It depends on voter suppression, mass disinformation, foreign interference, and unabashed use of executive branch power to shape events and perceptions this fall. So I'm going to hit you, Lemire, and then Schmidt. Lemire first. What do you think about that? What that says, that this is what is on Trump's mind, that these are the fears that Bill Kristol is enunciating, but that millions of Americans are thinking right now and asking us all about all the time. What do you hear inside that building you cover related to these matters?